back to the channel. This is Bruce at the Bowski Studio. I'm going to be getting a second session on this painting. If you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you'll see that I did a painting a couple of videos ago called Painting Boats. If you haven't seen that, I'll put a card up somewhere above so you can click on that and watch that before this one. If you're new watching for the first time, thanks for joining us. But this first stage was completed with some turpentine and just some oil color to get some base tones in. Now I'm going to be adding a medium to the paint to facilitate getting a more textural appearance in the paint layers going forward. So let's get started. So here's the medium I'm going to be using. Windsor Newton Liquid Oleopasto. The palette from left to right will be yellow ochre, burnt sienna, ivory black, ultramarine blue, cad yellow pale, and cadmium red lights with titanium white and cremnitz white mixed together. So you can see the Oleopasto really creates some nice, beautiful stiffness somewhat to the paint. This medium was a pleasure to use. I usually used like the liquid in the past, and I like that a lot also. If you've never used this before, it stiffens up the paint, and brushing it out will be a little awkward to you if you're used to very fluid paint. So it's something to get used to, but I highly suggest trying it out and see what you think. A takeaway in this would definitely be mixing up enough paint, which I have to work on myself since I don't use it often. So that's my little tip using this product so far. Now when I paint this in here, the original photograph is very kind of blah, and I'm kind of going to saturate a few colors, make my own opinions about some of the colors to add a little more interest to the painting. Mostly as I like the composition in the piece. I want to add some color interest in this warehouse wall here. So that's what we're going to work on right now. So starting with some white, I'm going to add a little bit of blue. I don't want to sully my original sky color there. I'm going to add a little burnt sienna, a little more blue, just to kind of get a warm, kind of grayish color. So I've taken some of that color and I'm putting it strategically in different areas, scumbling, not looking to apply broad areas in terms of denseness. I want to have that sort of see-through appearance to the paint that's originally there, and I'll mix up other tones to put in between this scumbling to add interest to this background wall without overpowering everything else. It's important to be strategic when you're doing stuff like this, but I don't want to just obliterate that nice tone that I have underneath. I want to build on that and save some of, see if some of it speaks to the rest of the painting and layers that I'm putting over it. And always be conscious of that while you're working on the piece. As I'm working on this second session, it's becoming apparent, you know, the reference photo is just that, a reference photo. Sometimes we get caught up in the details of the reference photo. There are some things I changed, but I'm seeing now that I want to change even more things and liven it up a little bit. Of course, there will be on future sessions adding all the cool little details, the icing on the cake that's going to really kind of make this pop. There'll be some buoys and little colorful notes that'll help energize the painting, and I think that'll really add to its impact. Now, leading back into conversation about adjusting things to liven up the painting, it's going to be a challenge also to find that balance of detail along with suggestive information. I like that kind of balance. I don't want everything refined too much. And what is that balance? That's individual for every painting and every artist. Let me know what you think in the comments. Hit me up. But I find it's always a decision-making process as the painting's developing, and we have to really kind of calculate where end effect is. Of course, with me, of course, the boat is the main focal point. That nice bright white shape, and that's really going to add some punch to the finished painting. One thing I look forward to in future sessions, of course, is adding the patina to the boat. That's really going to help tell the story of the history of the sea and people that live off to sea, and it's just going to add a really nice touch. I'm looking forward to it. Now the painting's developing. It's a slow process because you don't want to rush something like this. There's lots of layering going on. There'll probably be multiple, probably about 4 sessions. And right now, like I got this base greenish tone in here. Now I'm going to create some pinkish tone to scumble over that and have that be a little more saturated, hopefully. And that's the plan, to scumble over this to create some texture and some wear and tear on the shingles of the building. And also that reddish tone is going to help complement some of the green that's going to be going on in the water. Now one technique that I'm doing now when you want to apply wet paint over wet paint is to practically have your brush parallel to the canvas. That really helps apply more paint without disturbing too much what's underneath. I really enjoy that technique. I use it a lot. And you can see too that I'm not holding my brush like a pencil. You know, I find that just out of habit now, I'm really just holding it like a tool you would use like to build something or to, you know, do masonry work. I really don't use it like a drawing implement, except for certain cases like you see here on the trim of the boat and things like that. But having that combination of brushwork kind of really adds to the interest in the painting when the viewer is looking at it and enjoying it from all aspects from afar. But then yet when they come up close, they can really enjoy it for the paint application and texture and things like that. Type of idea is something I really want to strive for in my work, having that balance of when you're far away it looks so realistic or whatever, but as you approach the painting it starts to break down a bit and be a little bit of interest with abstract passages and that sort of content. And I think that makes it more engaging for the viewer, makes them a participant in the idea of looking at your painting and enjoying it. Now I'm just getting the top planes of the lobster boat little cabin area. Another part's blocked in here. There is some railing on there also, but I don't want to put the railing on, paint around it, so I'll put that on afterwards. I think that can definitely be a problem with beginner painters, is finding that way, like which elements should I work on first, how should I build the painting, what layers, and it's definitely a challenge. I mean, I still struggle with it now. I think it's something that everyone kind of struggles with, because every painting is going to be somewhat different, and some people really think through the process to calculate, you know, their steps. You might do preliminary color studies and all that good stuff, but I just like I have the general idea when I started painting. I'm like, I know the focal point, and I want to have that experience with the painting itself and have it develop organically in some ways. I know that sounds kind of counterintuitive, but I think it, for me, is the way I like to work. I think it's more engaging for me. I don't lose interest. It's not like I have everything worked out and then I'm just going to go step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and on and on. It's a two-edged sword. If you're not careful, it can really bite you in the rear, but I'm willing to go down that road. Sometimes if we don't go down a road, we won't know what's on the other side. It may be good or bad, but if it's good, then you've learned something new, and it's something to build on for future paintings and to enhance your artistic experience. We're slowly getting there in the piece. It's quite a process to build these layers, take time with the accuracy of drawing and that sort of thing. But you can see why something like this would take, for the level I want to take it, with painting realistically. It's going to take several sessions to get it done, and we're almost going to be wrapping up this session. Been at it for probably about, I think about 3 hours or so. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but when you're working on a painting, I've been listening a lot to YouTube with workflow, getting into the flow state and getting into the zone, whatever you want to call it. And I can see that. I've experienced that before. And it seems like there's a pocket where you have like a good 4 hours of that really intense concentration. Then it starts to wane a bit. It doesn't mean that you can't keep working on the painting. Maybe there's other parts you can maybe, okay, this just takes a simple blocking of color. I'm going to do that to prepare for the next layer. But usually I find because I've done this in the past. You keep working, and then the next day when you come back to that painting, you don't like what you've done, and you remember those last, say, 2 hours that you worked on when you shouldn't have. Should have stepped away. Come back to it with a fresh face, a fresh look at it, so to speak. What I try to do is I try to leave the painting, especially when you're working on over a long haul. I try to leave the painting in a good state, end on a good note, like you really like how you captured a certain element in the painting, and then if you know you're going to be stopping, end on that note. So when you come back to the piece, you're prepared mentally to go on to the next stages. Yes, watching those YouTube videos about workflow, that to me is a real thing. I think I have about 4 good hours before, my power of intensity is waning. Let me know what you think in the comments, because I want to know if it's a common thing among artists out there in general, because it's a very hard challenge to sometimes come home from working a full-time job like I do and get in the studio and paint with an intention. It can be a real challenge. I'm trying to work on that this year in 2022. The important thing for me is to never give up, because then I'll never achieve my goals for sure. So I have to keep at it. Now, because these layers have not been painted over too much from the original, I'm going to go ahead and put a base tone for the next session of the wood on the wharf deck there, just to get some color note on there. And that'll leave me in a good place and a good layer for the next session. Let it scumble. Let it drag across the surface of the canvas. Canvas can be your friend. I usually paint on MDF board because I like the smooth surface and control of textures, but every so often, especially with the larger format pieces, they're going to be very heavy if I use MDF. So I have to weigh that sort of issue for shipping and just for transporting and all that good stuff. Canvas is the way to go. Right now I'm just going to darken up some of the area under the wharf to pop the lighter tones out more. Color is sunken in. So I just want to clean up some lines. It's a good opportunity to do this now, just to bring things forward a bit. And I plant, pull, don't fiddle around too much. Pick up more paint, continue on. And the Oleopasto liquid should dry pretty fast. And depending on your weather conditions around where you live for the, what would you call it, humidity, will depend on how fast your paint's dry also. Now just a hint of some pilings underneath. Just bring out a few touches of warm tones. Okay, we're going to wrap up this session here. Pretty happy with how it's coming out and shaping up. So let's take a closer look at it. Okay, here's what we have going on at the moment. You can see how the forms are starting to crystallize now as we progress along with the painting. And working on this under here, starting to give some depth to underneath the building. You feel like that building is sitting on that wharf. And I think it's going to turn out to be pretty nice. I do like also the variations I did in the scumbling here. You have little cool tones and warm tones. And the painting is going to take what it takes. I'm hoping I can get it done another couple sessions. But we'll just play it by ear and see how things progress in each session. I'm really liking, of course, from the previous video, how I have that tone of the darker. The reflections in water are going to be a little bit darker than what's reflecting them. I do have to put another coat variations in the boat hull. And that's what we ended up with for this session. All right, everyone, we're going to be closing this out now. I want to thank you for joining me. Again, if you were new watching my channel for the first time, thanks a lot. And hit that subscribe button if you like what you saw so you can see future content. I hope to be working on this again soon, so I'll do another video. Until next time, bye.